In this demo, I'm going to show you how you define and configure environments for use with Visual Studio 2010 Lab Management. System Center Virtual Machine Manager 2008 R2, also known as SCVMM, provides the virtual machine management engine for Visual Studio 2010 Lab Management. Here you can see the Virtual Machine Manager console showing a single managed Hyper-V host. The Summary tab describes the Hyper-V host. You're able to quickly gather data about the number of processors, memory, and storage capacity, OS and virtualization software information, and the virtual machines hosted. The Networking and Storage tab provides more information about available drives as well as network adapters available. In this example, the machine only has one NIC. For production use, you run at least two NICs with one dedicated to the host and one to the virtual machines. Using SCVMM, you can manage multiple hosts, each with its own virtual machines. Here, I've filtered to a single host. I can then filter on a single virtual machine. Just as with a host machine, you can get summary data about the virtual machine. You can also see the networking and storage summary for the virtual machine. SCVMM libraries are used to catalog and store virtual machines and virtual machine templates for placement into environments. Here you can see a summary view of all items stored in all library servers. In this installation, there are two library servers. You can drill down on a specific library. In this example, I have a single virtual machine template. Templates represent a machine that has been prepped for use in a lab. Templates are sys-prepped so that you can create multiple unique virtual machines from them. In order to use lab management, you need to bind your Team Foundation server and a team project collection to your SCVMM server. You do this with the new, in 2010, Team Foundation Server Administration Console. Here you can see the SCVMM server I showed you earlier bound to the default collection on this TFS installation. You work with virtual machines from lab management by creating environments. An environment is a collection of one or more virtual machines that you manage and use as a unit. Clicking New will start the New Environment wizard. You can create two types of environments, physical and virtual. We're going to create a new virtual environment. First, you provide a name for the environment and a description. If you have a large lab implementation with many Hyper-V hosts, those hosts can be grouped and thus you can specify the host group. Next, you specify the virtual machine you want added to your environment. Here I'll select the simple template. Next, I click the Add to Environment button to add the selected template to my new environment. I'll now add a second copy of the template to create the environment. I'll now edit the virtual machine settings. First off, I'll rename the server. Having renamed it to Web, I've changed its role to Web Server. Now I'll modify the second server. I'll rename it also. I've set its name to DB and will select Database Server for its role. I'll click Next to continue the wizard, where I can adjust the virtual machine's properties. Using machine properties, you can adjust the amount of RAM allocated, set OS properties, and add tags to machines. On the Capabilities page, you can enable support for running tests and workflows. In addition, this is where you enable network isolation. Network isolation lets you run multiple copies of an environment without fear of network conflicts between environments or your corporate network. I'll enable tests. I'll enable workflows. And finally, I'll enable network isolation. When you enable network isolation, you can choose either workgroup or domain mode. If you choose domain mode, you need to define which machine in your environment will provide the domain controller functionality. For this example, I chose workgroup mode since I don't have a domain controller, and then continue to finish the wizard. Here I get a summary page where I can review my environment's settings. I'll click Finish to complete the environment creation process. Depending upon the number of virtual machines, their size, and speed of your hosts, this can take a short or long time. You can monitor environment creation from the Environments page of the Lab Center. If you switch to your SCVMM console, you can also see the progress. Here you can see the creation process is continuing to run. Here the process is finishing up. All done. I've now created a multi-machine environment with lab management. In this demo, I showed you how easy it was to define and configure environments for use with Visual Studio 2010 Lab Management.